Greetings and welcome to our presentation on requests for quotation. We are pleased that you have selected our program to become acquainted with the proper way to request a quotation from a supplier. As a purchasing professional, it will be your responsibility to issue a request for quotation to suppliers in order to get bids on the parts and services needed for your organization. This presentation will define and discuss the request for quotation. How does a purchasing professional communicate to suppliers that there is a need to get pricing on a good or service they wish to purchase? They use a request for quotation, an RFQ. A request for quotation is when suppliers are invited to submit a detailed bid on a part or service which meets the requirements as laid down in the request. An RFQ can either be oral or written. Although oral is acceptable, written is usually preferred. If the RFQ is written, any special specifications or requirements will be in writing, and the chances of the supplier omitting or misinterpreting what is being requested will be smaller or non-existent. This is especially important if the request is for a part that will be manufactured from engineering drawings or technical specifications. What should be included in an RFQ that is sent to a supplier? Today, most written communication between buyer and the supplier will be by electronic means. It is good to have a standard format for all RFQs for better management of the information. Also, if suppliers who quote often for you are familiar with the format, the chance of them missing important information that pertains to the quote is reduced. A requisition can be as simple as a request in a sentence, such as, "Please provide pricing and availability for part number 123. The RFQ can be very technical, requiring a part that has been designed and specified by engineering. It may contain an engineering drawing, material specifications, special requirements, etc. The key is to make sure that your requisition is efficient and effective and gives a clear explanation for what is to be quoted. There is certain information that should be included on the standard requisition to make sure that the details of the request are communicated properly to the supplier. Some of the key components of the RFQ are the issue date of the requisition, the due date of the bid from the supplier, the part being requested, the quantity needed, desired date of delivery, and if multiple delivery dates, the shipping schedule should be included. A description of the part, drawing number, and revision level. Attach a copy of the drawing. A description of special requirements regarding things such as packaging or shipping. And any additional information that would help the supplier to quote the part. After the RFQ is created, now the decision has to be made regarding what suppliers the RFQ will be sent to. When making this decision, the purchasing professional must think of the goals for the part. Of course, it is to get it made properly. But if cost is a concern, some of the suppliers that generally submit quotes that are higher than others may be eliminated immediately. This decision also depends on when the product is needed. There may be some suppliers that by the nature of their business will have a long lead time. At minimum, the purchasing professional should try to get 3 valid bids on every RFQ. In order to do this, at least 5 to 7 suppliers should receive an RFQ for the part or service. There are always exceptions to this rule. These exceptions will have to be handled differently. For example, if it is a part with only a few suppliers who can provide it, then you may only need to send 3 RFQs and receive then fewer bids. There may actually be instances when there is no response to the RFQ at all. When this happens, the purchasing professional must first understand why there was no response. Maybe there is disbelief that the order will be placed and the supplier doesn't want to waste their time preparing a quote. Maybe the part is not in their scope of supply. There are occasions when the company does not think they have the capacity to take the order. If any of these situations should happen, the purchasing professional should reach out to the suppliers and try to work through the issues, if possible, and then convince the supplier to bid. As a purchasing professional, you have to understand that the supplier has to have ample time to submit a bid. One of the largest mistakes made by purchasing professionals is not allowing the adequate amount of time for the supplier to submit a quote. Remember that if the supplier is allowed adequate time to research the part they are quoting to your organization, the more it will benefit your organization. When setting the due date for the bid to be returned to you, think of what has to be done to get the quote completed. In some industries, the RFQ is more complicated. Instead of it being like a line or short form, it is a letter or document with many attachments. Government purchasing, for example, has a very long and detailed RFQ. This is necessary because of the laws and rules involved with doing business with the government. There are rules and regulations that apply to doing business with the government that do not apply to civilian industries. Once all of the bids are returned from the suppliers, review each RFQ and understand what the suppliers have submitted. Make sure the bids are correct, the pricing is competitive, and the specifications are met. If a supplier's bid is not competitive, extremely low, or extremely high, it is a good idea to discuss this bid with the supplier. Maybe they have made a mistake in typing the bid and transposed numbers. Maybe they did not understand exactly what you were requesting. If, however, you are giving one supplier an opportunity to revisit their bid, you should allow all suppliers the opportunity. Always be careful not to reveal to one supplier what the competition is quoted. If the decision is to allow one supplier another opportunity to fine-tune their quote, the communication to all suppliers should be that the quoting deadline has been extended, not that supplier XYZ is updating his or her bid. There will always be suppliers that your organization does more business with than others, but the quoting process should be equal to all suppliers. No supplier should have an unfair advantage over the others. There may be occasions when all bids received are higher than the anticipated price range set aside in the budget. If this were to happen, there are a couple of options. The first, of course, is to have a discussion with the suppliers. Understand what the reason for the high cost of manufacturing or supplying the part is. It may be due to the specifications your company has requested, or the way engineering has designed the part. If either of these conditions exists, then you have to go back to engineering and ask questions and understand why the part was designed the way it was. Sometimes, the design does not equate to the ease of manufacturing a part. There are times when the suppliers can suggest ways to change a design to make a part less costly to manufacture, and it does not affect the functionality of that part. There are also times when costs are high due to demand of a certain material or scarcity of a certain commodity. In recent years, for example, copper has been extremely volatile in price. If the part being manufactured for you contains copper, the price may differ from day to day. This is a very difficult situation for the supplier. They will therefore inflate the price of sourcing the copper to make sure they are still able to make a profit on selling the part to your organization. A situation such as this one would require the purchasing professional to be aware of the cost fluctuations of certain commodities. An RFQ is a tool to communicate to the supplier that your organization is interested in doing business with them. The supplier must submit a competitive bid to the specifications requested by the buying organization. The RFQ helps to communicate exactly what is being sought after. It should give the supplier all the pertinent information needed to submit a competitive bid to the buyer. The buyer should examine closely who the RFQ will be sent to. Approaching it in this manner will help to ensure competitive bids are submitted from potential suppliers. An accurate RFQ is essential to getting the correct price to the correct specifications from the suppliers. Any inaccuracies may cause the incorrect part or material to be quoted. Thank you once again for your time and attention, and this is businesstraining.com, where you can earn a master's level qualification to make more money.